And welcome to the nation's flagship political show. I'm Coyote Okikilu here at Channels Television's global headquarters. Well, our show tonight begins from Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria, where in a quite rare showing, 3 of the presidential candidates in the 2023 elections were in the city today. That's right. Well, 2 of them were at the Arawa Joint Committee interactive session, while the 3rd held a campaign rally all in the same state. So let's break it down for you. Looks like there's a lot of attention on Kaduna State right now. Rightly so. We'll break that down. Now, for the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Bola Tinubu, who was at the Arawa House, he asked his People's Democratic Party counterpart, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, to step down and endorse him ahead of February 2023 presidential poll. Well, Mr. Tinubu asked Atiku to reciprocate what he described as a gesture he gave to him when he contested for the presidency in 2007 under the defunct Action Congress of Nigeria, ACN, by dropping his ambition and endorsing him. Mr. Tinubu also said, if elected, he will ensure that Nigeria promotes the rule of law. And don't forget that the PDP candidate was there at the same venue 2 days ago. However, he's yet to respond to the comments made about him by the APC candidate. But that's not all. There was another guest at the interactive session today. This time, the Labour Party's presidential candidate. Well, he made an appearance and spoke about the mission and the vision of the Obi Datti candidacy, which he says is to give full expression to Nigeria's democracy by moving the country from consumption to production. He also identified the North as having the highest number of out-of-school children, highest number of school kidnapping, and the highest number of internally displaced persons, while promising to resolve the security challenges, improve agriculture, and more. Well, Mr. Peter Obi and his vice, Datti Ahmed, also visited Islamic cleric Sheikh Gumi today. Well, the interactive session, by the way, which was held at the Arawa House in Kaduna, was organized by a coalition of 6 groups from the north, including the Arawa Consultative Forum, Sir Ahmadu Bello Memorial Foundation, Northern Elders Forum, and Jama'ah Martin Arawa, among others. But that's not all. So the 3rd presidential candidate, who was also in Kaduna State today, well, he was campaigning this time around at the Rangers B Stadium in the state capital. Well, suspected thugs had earlier disrupted the campaign of the People's Democratic Party, but the event later went on as scheduled, with Mr. Atiku Abubakar commending the efforts of security agencies and supporters for foiling the attempts to disrupt the campaign. Now, this particular incident comes just days after the APC and PDP supporters on Saturday clashed at a rally which was organized by the PDP in Gusau, the Zamfara state capital. Now, this mayhem claimed the life of 1 person and left 18 others injured, according to the police. So, taking a look at these, they are red flags, really. Red flags that we do not want to see in the build-up to the elections. And we'll be taking on the parties on that tonight because it's a quite vital point. Plus, we'll also be taking a look at how well the Buhari government has improved the quality of life of Nigerians, or otherwise, because there was that ministerial retreat earlier today. But we'll get to that very soon. So before we get into the meat of the program, let's bring you some other trending political stories. Here's a political roundup.
As preparations towards the 2023 general elections continue to gather momentum, the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Datti Ahmed, is urging Nigerians to ignore politicians who use religion and tribal sentiments to seek support. Addressing journalists after a town hall meeting with key stakeholders of the coalition for Obi Datti support groups in Minna, the Niger state capital, Mr. Ahmed says the opposition People's Democratic Party and the ruling All Progressives Congress have both ruled for 24 years with nothing to show. He adds that the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, is prepared to end most of the challenges faced by Nigerians if elected as president.
2023 election must not be about religion. It must also not be about ethnicity, because the technical meaning of President Peter Obi is that Nigeria has united.
The All Progressives Congress in Adamawa State has rejected the judgment of the Federal High Court in Yola, which barred it from fielding a candidate in the coming 2023 general election. Reacting to the judgment, the secretary of the APC in the state, Mr. Raymond Chidama, after a meeting of the State Working Committee and critical stakeholders of the party, says the party will appeal the judgment in order to reclaim its mandate, expressing confidence that it will not only reclaim its mandate, but will win the governorship election in the state come 2023. The party therefore calls on its members and supporters to remain calm, because the APC will not rest on its oars until justice is served.
We will proceed to Court of Appeal immediately to press for our demands.
The 2019 Imo State governorship candidate for Action Alliance, Mr. Uche Nwosu, is asking citizens to vote their conscience in the forthcoming general election. Mr. Nwosu, who addressed to journalists in Abuja on the ongoing campaigns and other events leading up to the general election, notes that the outcome of the elections will be determined at the polling booths. He urges the electoral umpire to be firm and unbiased during the conduct of the elections.
You ask yourself, same-faith ticket, is it okay for Nigeria? No same-faith ticket, is it okay for Nigeria? Whatever your conscience tells you, you do.
The Labour Party says it has all it takes to win the forthcoming general election in 2023. The national chairman of the party, Barrister Julius Abure, stated this in Abuja during the party's meeting with some support groups across the country. Mr. Abure notes that the party has the most credible and competent candidates for the elections and urges Nigerians to shun politics of bias.
Labour Party and its candidate is the only alternative to others, and we are going out in full force to show to Nigerians why it must be Labour Party all the way.
The National Human Rights Commission has launched a special campaign with which it plans to mobilize citizens' participation in the 2023 general election and also keep track of violations to rights of citizens. Speaking at a news conference in Abuja, the Executive Secretary of the Commission, Mr. Tony Ojukwu, notes that the campaign will mobilize citizens for the collection of their PVCs and also ensure that they exercise their rights to vote. Mr. Ojukwu, who says the Commission has already opened a register to document violators of the electoral laws, promises to collaborate with the police and Attorney General of the Federation to prosecute violators of citizens' rights during the elections.
This project is crafted in such a way that it will address a lot of human rights issues along the line.
And all candidates of the All Progressives Congress who took part in the just concluded Osun local government election have been declared elected unopposed. Chairman Osun Independent Electoral Commission, Segun Olaitan, made this known in Osogbo while presenting certificates of return to winners of the local government election on Sunday. The OCEC chairman says all the candidates were declared winners, having fulfilled necessary constitutional and electoral requirements. Speaking on voter apathy, Mr. Olaitan notes that political parties who fail to sensitize and mobilize the electorate for elections should be blamed for the phenomenon and not the election management body.
So now that you're well acquainted, let's get into this. Tonight on the program, we'll begin our conversation by reviewing and scoring this government against the benchmark which it set for itself. Now, 7 months before his exit from office, the president says that the goal to increase electricity generation to 25,000 megawatts in 6 years is on course. Now, he made this remark as he kicked off his final ministerial performance review at a retreat in the State House, where he declared that he has met the yearnings of Nigerians. At the event, also attended by former President of Kenya, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, President Buhari also promised that his government will continue to prosecute high-profile corruption cases to completion.
We have implemented high-impact projects across the length and breadth of the country that meet the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerians. Some of the notable achievements include the completion of 326 kilometers Itape, Ajakuta, Warri rail line, and railway ancillary facilities. The completion of over 150 kilometers Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge railway modernization project with extension to Lagos, Port Harcourt, Port, and Apapa. On road projects, the administration has constructed 408 kilometer roads 2,499 kilometers of cook roads and maintenance of 15,961 kilometers of roads across the country.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari speaking at that retreat. Well, our review of President Buhari's administration's performance will not be around, vague issues, vague points, or vague factors. It will be around the 9 key priority areas of this government. And, this government has reeled those priority areas out. And let's take a look at them so we can have the KPIs, what we'll use to have this conversation, such that Nigerians can follow easily and look into their lives, look into their reality, see just how well this is their reality. So the first key priority area of the Buhari government is to stabilize the macro economy. That's the very first on the list. Then achieving agriculture and food security. The third key priority area for this administration is ensuring energy sufficiency in power and petroleum products. Then improve transportation and other key infrastructure. Drive industrialization is also on that list. Improving health, education and productivity of Nigerians, as well as enhancing social inclusion and reducing poverty. The last 2 key priority areas are fighting corruption, improving governance, and of course, improving security for all. So it's a bit simple, or at least simpler. Well, governance is never simple, as they say, but at least these are the KPIs, and it will form a major part of our conversation tonight. So stay with us as we speak with our guests on the program. We're joined live from our Abuja studio this evening by Ndikato, who is a spokesperson of the Obidati PCC, that's a Presidential Campaign Council. Also joining us is Imani Boro, who is a former presidential media aide, a former MD News Agency of Nigeria, and also a member of the APC, as well as Adako Jogi, who's a PDP chieftain and an economist. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the program this evening as we discuss this very important issue. All right. Well, gentlemen, let's begin. Right. Let's begin with the lady gentleman. That's what gentlemen should do naturally. And I'd like to begin with you, Ndikato. How would you rate this current government? The priority areas are there for all Nigerians to see. If you were to rate this current government across those priority areas, what would you score the Buhari administration? Don't forget that the president says that he has met the yearnings of Nigerians.
So if I was to score this the current government, I'll score them extremely low. And as an epic fail, and I'll give my points as thus. We're looking at insecurity. In the first place, every other thing you're trying to say, every other thing you're trying to do, from the roads to whatever else you're trying to grow in terms of the economy, macroeconomics, in terms of every other thing, industrialization. If we do not have security, we cannot achieve that. Security has been very, very poor under this government. We're seeing them attempting to pick up, especially with the military now and all of the buying of weapons and all of that. But still, one of the major things we faced with this government was the political will to pursue security in the way that they should have pursued it. And it caused a delay. And that delay was at the expense of Nigerian lives. And that is unforgivable. So at the end of the day, when we are talking about all these things, we cannot look at it as if there hasn't been a human cost to the behavior of the Buhari government. There has been an extreme human cost. And that human cost is the Nigerian life, which has been greatly devalued under Buhari's government. Going forward, in terms of education, I remember in the 2019 elections, Buhari, through his media aide, had said, through his assistant, had said that, the focus of this government was going to be education, education, education. And it seemed that they focused on it with an attempt to bring education in the country down. We were having several issues. ASU has been going on and off with strikes. Children have not been able to stay in schools. Even in places like Kaduna State, where I come from, it has been so terrible. Children went to school and some of them were kidnapped. Secondary school children were kidnapped. University children were kidnapped. kidnapped. Many have not still found their way back home. We're still seeing, with respect to insecurity, people who were even kidnapped in the train attack. Some of them were students. Some just found their way back home. Now, this is not something that we can overlook. With respect to industrialization, people cannot come to create industries, cannot grow, cannot build in a nation where there's insecurity, where forex is very difficult and there's so many limitations, where there's uncertainty with the way in which policies are set. And this is the way the Buhari government has carried on. So with all of this, we can look closely and say, look, this has not gone on well. I do not know from what angle the president is talking to say that he has done well or that Nigerians are satisfied. If we take away politics, I am a Nigerian. I have felt the Buhari government in the worst way ever possible. This has been one of the most difficult points of my life. And for many young people, this is 8 years of our lives. When Buhari entered, I was in my 20s, and now I'm in my 30s, and it is years that I cannot get back. What have I sacrificed in these years? I have not been able to do my businesses in the way that I would prefer to do them. In fact, I have work in Kaduna right now, and I'm wondering how we're going to go there. In terms of education, there's so much uncertainty. For our own children who are coming up, we're wondering what schools are they going to go to. In fact, education has become something that has been so expensive for even the middle class, which is dwindling right now. The middle class is wondering, where are we going to send our children to school? The poor are wondering, where are they going to send their children to school? Because to get education where your child can go from the beginning to the end of school in quick succession, you have to spend so much money. We're looking at 3-point-something million naira for private universities. Because any child that you put in a public university, with the way the government is behaving, that child might not graduate in 5 or 6 years for a 4-year course. This is dastardly. In respect to health, we've seen so many photos, so many of people in hospitals. Some hospitals, they are using sticks and the rest to put drips on it. This is really poor, especially in the northern parts of Nigeria. With IDP camps and all of that, we're seeing woeful performance in the health sector. I'm trying to go through all
Pardon me, let me come in here. You've mentioned at least 4 of them, so we can take them and segment them, get the appropriate responses. So you've talked about security, education, industrialization, health. You've also talked about, you know, business environment and all of that. But you tied it to security a lot, I noticed. So let's bring in Mr. Imani Boro and get his reaction. And, you know, she said something quite instructive, saying that she's a Nigerian and she has felt this government. We're all Nigerians. You are a Nigerian as well, and you have felt this government. The president declared that he has met the yearnings of Nigerians. Do you agree with him off the back of what Indicator has just reeled out?
Well, it is very clear that we are Nigerians. The president himself is a Nigerian. We know the challenges that we face. We don't come here and tell Nigerians what does not exist. The president says he has met expectations. Yes, he has. But that does not mean, you see, governance is a continuous process. That does not mean that there are areas that don't require improvement, support, and going forward. In the area of insecurity, the government has tried its level best, and it's a continuing process. The government has not one day rested on its oars. You find that Nigeria is beset with a very unique situation. Nigeria is beset with a situation it hasn't been confronted with before. What we can call an almost internal criminal insurgence. If you deploy every soldier, every policeman in Nigeria to man the entire space of this country, you will not be able to control these things the way that Nigerians actually would prefer. Look at the situation we are faced in. How many soldiers do we have? How many policemen do we have? If we dedicate the entire budget, and this is a budget that is competing with education, like she pointed out, competing with infrastructure. But if we put the entire budget of Nigeria on security, it will not even solve the problem. Nigeria we are confronted with a very difficult situation. And what we expect is empathy. Nigerians to come together so that we come and find solutions to these issues. Let each man be his neighbor's, his brother's keeper in this country. Government has a key role to play, and this government has done a lot in terms of security. This government has empowered the military in such a way that no other government has. But you find a situation that even the military sometimes finds itself overwhelmed because it is like what you're experiencing like in a guerrilla warfare. Our soldiers are trained for conventional warfare. We are having to retrain for the situation that we have now. Because these amount to virtually like street fights with criminals embedded in civilian populations. And this is a society where you have a lot of active media and social media presence. You cannot go into a community and mow down the entire community. So you need a lot of intelligence, a lot of strategy. And a lot of work is going on. It's not something you can achieve overnight. There's nobody, even the president himself admits that we have security challenges. But those challenges have not overwhelmed us as a people. We still conduct our business. We still go to school, we still go to markets. We still live our lives. People are getting married every day. But that doesn't mean that we don't have these challenges. These challenges exist. What we should look at is, has government been trying its level best? And are we on a path to solving these things? I will tell you that we're on a path.
Right.
Government has not rested, it will not rest.
So just before I bring in, just before I bring in Mr. Dakole Jogi, you agree on the one hand that President Buhari has met the yearnings of Nigerians, but on the flip side, you said that there's still lots of issues. You talked about lack of funds. You've talked about security agencies being overwhelmed. You talked about lack of intelligence. In fact, you essentially called for empathy from Nigerians. So really, would you still say that he has met the yearnings of Nigerians? Because he also said that the issues are there. So maybe I should just ask you, what would you say are the yearnings of Nigerians for you to have said this government has met it?
Nigerians, like every citizen of every country, they yearn for the perfect state of harmony, perfect state of peace, perfect state of tranquility, where you can go and come without hitch. Everybody yearns for that. But we know that there is no society in the world that has achieved that. You find even the developed countries. I came back from Canada last week. We had a situation where in a province called Saskatchewan, there were mass murders. It was not political, but it's a major security challenge. In the US, it happens. Here, we have our own unique situation here. That does not mean that the government cannot say that it has not achieved. The government has achieved. The president can say it has achieved and met yearnings.
Okay. All right. So let's get Mr. Dakole Jogi's opening comments.
Challenges do not exist.
All right. Let's get his opening comments on this one. And I know that, yes, there are political affiliations, but at least for a start, I'd like us to speak as Nigerians, as you have spoken. So for you, these 9 key priority areas have been listed out. You're a Nigerian as well, and a Nigerian first before maybe a member of the PDP, I imagine. So haven't been in power, your party, yes, and you understand maybe what it demands being in governance. How would you rate the performance of this current administration as it winds down in just about 7 months?
Yes, thank you, Kayode. Let me start by saying that the APC has failed, Labour Party is hopeful, while the PDP is ready. Now, we're talking governance. I commiserate with my brother here because there's nothing as bad as defending a bad product. I put it on record as an economist now, not as a politician, that the APC, since 1960, is the worst administration has ever ruled this country in terms of macroeconomic indices. We took the liberty to do that research. And I said this on different platforms. This is not politics. Economic growth rate. This APC administration has thrown the economy into 2 recessions. This APC administration has destroyed the value of the naira. This APC administration has destroyed unemployment. They have created economic contradictions. Nigeria has the largest economy in Africa, yet the Nigerian currency, the naira, is not in the top 10 currencies in Africa. Even the CFA The CFA that used to be some backdoor currency to Nigerians has even more value than the Naira. What this APC administration has done to the Nigerian economy, it will take the Nigerian economy 48 consecutive quarters of a GDP growth rate of over 12%. I tell you, Kaudi, I'm very serious about this. This APC administration is an unfortunate thing that has happened to Nigerians. Aside the way they have mismanaged security, mismanaged unemployment, mismanaged the economy, mismanaged infrastructure development, if we go down to the brass tacks as Nigerians and ask ourselves this basic truth, has your life fared better? Is your life fared better in 2015 and in 2022? The answer is a resounding no. There is no political brickmanship about this. There is no politic in it. There's no sweet coat in it. The thing is, if we take it, if we take it sector by sector, even if you leave the economy and you go into things like social justice, things like early warning signals before conflict, things like that, the feeling of feeling equitable. I mean, look at even in appointments. The whole appointment is one-sided in this country. This country is more divided more than ever before in its history. I mean, look, it is sad. But you see, the unfortunate thing is that one cannot give what one doesn't have. APC has now proven to Nigerians that they cannot provide the desired leadership to drive the economy, to grow the economy, to secure Nigerians. It is evident. I mean, I want anybody in the APC to quote me, to come out, not rhetorics, what the president was mentioning, calculating rail lines they have constructed in 7 years. All those don't amount to anything if the value of our lives have not improved. Look at a simple thing. Inflation is going up, is rising. Wages have been static. You have inflation, food inflation is about almost 30%, it's about 28%. You know what that does to a human being? It reduces your basket of goods. So your life, Nigerians are poorer. I don't need the World Bank or anybody else to tell me that Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world. We don't need that. We go to the market every day. A simple thing like Indomie or a sachet of water that was 5 naira is now 20 naira. I mean, everything has been, look. Let us be serious. We are Nigerians. Nigeria is in dire straits. We need serious people to solve this problem. We need serious political party, serious people who have had the experience. We don't need any greenhorn. We need people that have ideas. I mean, today's world is about ideas. You're complaining about security that the president has spent thus far on security. Yes, yet Nigeria is not secure. There are jailbreaks. Bandits are breaking up our jail. They are blowing up our rail lines. I mean, sometimes I get worried and agitated when I hear political leadership sound like this.
All right. Haven't given your own...
really disturbing.
Yeah, haven't given your own rating of this government. I can hear you right, but I'd like us to then, spread this further so we can get more value for this conversation. So you have all rated this government, different ratings, understandably. And I know Nigerians at home watching will also be rating the performance of this government based on their reality. But your candidates now in the running for office in 2023 have spoken about how they will solve issues from the APC to the PDP to the Labour Party. So let's see if these solutions are enough to at least get Nigerians, or at least you, to where you believe that Nigerians should be right now. And I'll go back to Ndakato on this. Your candidate has time and again, he reiterated that today at the Arawa committee meeting, saying that Nigeria needs to move from consumption to production. But herein lies the issues that a lot of people have raised. The cost of production in the country is quite high. The energy costs, if you want to buy diesel, you know how much it costs. If you want to pay for power, you know how much it costs. Transportation costs and all of that. Essentially, these are the issues or the roadblocks ahead of this production goal that your candidate has set. So just for the issue of the cost of production, bringing it down such that Nigerians can go through production easily and maybe earn more forex, what is the plan of your candidate?
So with respect to Peter Obi, he has said a lot about from consumption to production. One of the major things he has talked about is Forex and how we need to unify the Forex figures in this country. Of course, the government has one and the open market has another. We need to do that. There's a lot of Forex limitations. And I honestly do not know why this government is doing that. And this is, preventing a lot of trade from going on. Importation, exportation, it is affecting it. We need to look at that. We need to look at our ports and how difficult it is for exportation to happen. As much as we talk about people going to the farms and all of that, once these things enter the ports, these things stop there. And our candidates have spoken extensively about making sure that our ports are restructured in a way that would ensure that goods move fast enough. Of course, he's a businessman. He feels this the most. With respect to transportation, he's talked about security. Now, let's look at the transportation that you mentioned. One of the things that is making transportation go so much, go high on the high side for goods and services, of course, is that there is insecurity. Many vehicles do not make it to their final point. And he's looked at insecurity. What has he said about insecurity? He's going to restructure insecurity. What kind of restructuring? We've talked a lot, and these are really things that affect the average Nigerian. What has the average Nigerian said over and over again? And this shows that Peter Obi listens. The average Nigerian has said we need to restructure security. We need police that we can recognize. We need soldiers that, we need the soldiers first of all. That is another thing. Our soldiers to focus on external security. Right now, you go to Gwagwalada Road, you go to Giri Road, you will see soldiers doing the work of police. We need our police to be restructured. We need state policing. We need our federal police to be restructured. We need all of that to happen so that they can focus on communities and work properly so that things can move forward in this country. Of course, with respect to bringing in industry, if we're able to stabilize our economy, people will come. And that comes from policies too. Our policies at this point I would describe as wish-wash. Today this policy is this, tomorrow it changes to that. I remember meeting with people in Ghana and they said many of these people who own construction firms, serious production companies have fled Nigeria. Of course, Ghana is having its own tough time now. But at the time they were here, what was their major problem that they had? They said that policies were not straight. Today the government will do this, tomorrow the government will do that. And he has been very straight on creating policies that are friendly for industries to take up in this country. I've talked about Forex. I think that is very important. With the way the Naira is performing very poorly, that would not encourage people to come in. Also, with respect to let's look at actually borrowing money to ensure that this economy moves forward properly. One of the things our candidate has said is, look, we cannot keep borrowing to service things that are not bringing forward profit, to service things that do not service the loans itself. Right. So if we are borrowing under our candidate, if we go borrowing, of course, this government has deteriorated the economy to the point that you know that the next government is in trouble. Whoever comes into government next, and I'm hoping that will be Peter Obi, will not have an easy time. Now, if we go to look for funds to run this country, one of the first things we are going to do is to ensure that we put these funds in places where they can function towards profitability, to service the loans that this government has already taken, to put our great-grandchildren in debt, and to service loans that are going to be taken by the incoming government. With respect to electricity, what we need are a lot more power stations. We need a lot of infrastructure with respect to electricity. And on top of all of these things, we're looking at political will. Our candidate has talked a lot about
just a moment, Indicator. We need to go on a quick break now, pardon me, and I'd like you to hold that thought, political will, simplifying governance, and then we'll bounce this off the two gentlemen in the studio with you as well. But we have to take this break. We're still taking a look at, yes, the performance of the current administration, but also what are the solutions to some of the problems that have been identified. Today we're discussing ideas. We'll break it down further when we return in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. We still have representatives of 3 political parties who are in the running to lead Nigeria come 2023. And we're discussing ideas. Yes, we have reviewed, at least according to them, the performance of this current administration over the past, 7+ years. But then we're discussing the ideas for a better nation, as we always say. So I'll allow Indicator a few seconds to land on that point you were making about political will and governance, so we can bring in others to get their views as well. Ideas. So you were talking about the political will and the governance issue. Please land on that.
So basically, with respect to political will, and I think that's a major problem this government has had, that I believe that our government is going to solve with the government of Peter Obi, is you may have everything in place, but the political will to actually carry these things out is another thing. And our candidate has shown that over time and over again. With his time as governor of Anambra State, we saw what he did with raising, education in the state. We saw what he did with respect to women's participation in governance, with education. We saw what he did with security, where he bought 500 vehicles. In fact, I believe that you can draw a straight line from what he did with security and General Enenche's continuous support of his candidacy, buying 500 vehicles for the military and police to ensure that Anambra State is safe. In fact, for the last 3 years of his governance there, there was no armed robbery in the state, and they commended him for that. There's so many other indices. But what I'm tying with that point is that at the end of the day, if a government does not want to do a thing, if a leader does not want to do a thing, whatever is aligned for that leader, nothing is going to happen.
Okay,
and one
let's
of
bring
the
in Mr. Imani Boro.
Peter Obi brings to the table is that political will to see change and to discuss change and see it through. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So, Mr. Imani Boro, it's yours now. A common thread we have seen in this conversation is security affecting a lot of other things, the economy, productivity, transportation, and all of that. And the political will she spoke about reminded me of something your candidate now, the candidate running for presidency next year, Mr. Bola Tinubu, talked about today, and that's state police. Now, this has been on for as long as a lot of Nigerians can remember, and it has been said that this might be at least one of the major solutions to insecurity in the country. But President Buhari has said clearly he's not a fan of a state police. So seeing that he has spoken about that, your candidate also has a viewpoint about that. What would you be telling Nigerians regarding the willpower really to ensure that security at the state level, perhaps through state police, is sorted?
Well, I'll tell you straight away that if you look at Tinubu's 7-point agenda, the first 3 key things, the first actually is leadership. You cannot achieve anything without the right leadership. And Tinubu is prepared to provide leadership. If you get leadership right, many things fall into place. And that is where we are going to in the next dispensation of APC. We've had leadership the past 7 years, and we are getting leadership for the next 8 years, God willing. And it's going to be APC's leadership, because the APC candidate has the right experience, has the knowledge, has the understanding of what needs to be done. My sister here was talking about Peter Obi buying 500 vehicles. Tinubu probably purchased over 5,000 vehicles for police. Well, over. I cannot sit here and tell you the numbers of vehicles.
You don't have the numbers, so you can't just call numbers out of the sky, did he?
They were over time. It was almost an annual ritual.
What are the exact figures?
Over time, from Tinubu to Fashola, down to Ambode. You understand? So no, it's the APC government. You understand? So these issues are very clear. There is no government that toys with insecurity. There is no government that is not serious about insecurity. I keep saying that Nigeria is confronted with a unique scenario. It is very unique. It's not something even our security agencies were trained for. So you see a lot of retraining, a lot of strategizing going on. People learning on the job every day to solve these problems. Who enjoys this? You think the president enjoys when he's in the villa, they tell him that they take 200 people off a train? Nobody enjoys that. But you see that there is everyday effort going on. I was spokesman to a PDP government. I was spokesman to President Jonathan. It was under our watch that this entire Boko Haram story started. In fact, the very first video about the killing of the founder of Boko Haram, Yusuf, I and my colleague, we played it to the Federal Executive Council. We know how this thing started. It doesn't mean that there's no government that's not ready to tackle it. But these are new things, and government learns every day. And in terms of economy and recession, my colleague from PDP talked about 2 recessions. In fact, the entire globe is heading to a 3rd recession right now, the post-COVID recession. We must internationalize our analysis. Some of us live in this country, we also live outside the country. So we know what happens elsewhere. Right now, the central banks across the world are preparing for a recession. The issue in the US and Canada and North America today is the cost of goods and services. Everything is gone through the ceiling. Right. It's not a Nigerian phenomenon. It's a global phenomenon. I'm not saying that because of that we should rest our hours. No, we don't rest our hours.
Mr. Nibor, so this was also particularly about the state police conversation. What should Nigerians expect? Will there be state police? Seeing that perhaps wouldn't happen under this administration with the stance of President Buhari. But for your candidate, will there be state police? That's what, so I can move on.
I think the issue of state police is something that Nigerians have to form a synergy on. Nigerians have to agree on the pathway forward. There is no government that can impose it. We must have a way of looking at it. Right. Let me tell you something that the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, used to say. I'm close enough so I can tell you. He used to say that state police, good, but with the kind of politics we have in Nigeria, if you have a state commissioner of police that's appointed by the governor, there will be no opposition within that state. Take, for instance.
So are you saying that in a federal system... No, are you saying that then in a federal system where we have federal police, I mean, there's been no opposition because the federal government controls the police? Is that a fair enough argument?
No. Let me explain this. Let me explain this to you. The federal level, at the federal level, there has been a consistent use of authority. So at the federal level, there are systems and structures that exist that checkmate one another for abuse. But if you bring it to a new environment, before you consolidate it, there will be a learning process. And during that learning process, a lot of things will occur. However, I don't say
because of time.
Police. I do not myself. I am not opposed to state police. I speak for myself here.
All right. Okay. So let's try to move along.
Have a consensus from Nigerians.
That point is taken. Nigerians should try to have a consensus. But I wonder for you quickly, is there like a clash of ideologies? Because you've talked about your time with former President Goodluck Jonathan in the PDP, now in the APC. Is there really any clash of ideologies thinking, oh, APC, PDP, does that happen?
Well, you see, well, that would be talking about myself, but I don't think so. Because for me, I left PDP to APC because of issues within my state.
Okay, it's okay. Just APC to be clear on the ideology issues, because I imagine the viewers too will be wondering, but at least you've given some clarity on that. So let's go to Mr. Jogi on this. And I'd like to speak to something also tied to security. Don't forget, we're discussing ideas just to see how we can solve the issues on ground. Incidentally, actually, today is International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. Figures for Nigeria puts it at 40% poverty rates. I mean, this government, as over time has said, it plans to take 100 million out of poverty. For your candidates, he has said this particularly over time, hunger and poverty, saying that he will put a stop to it. Through what? In what way?
Well, the presidential candidate of our party has the required experience, governorship and leadership experience. And when he makes pronouncements like that, be sure that he's not just throwing punchlines and saying beautiful campaign statements. Now, the reason I say this is that when you look at his pact with Nigeria, you will see that in eliminating poverty and hunger, he has focused on 3 indices. 1, ramping up production, because you have to get the people to produce in order for the economy to thrive, so as you reduce poverty. You don't reduce poverty by giving out handouts, by giving out conditional cash transfers. No, you reduce poverty by actually engaging the people into production. And then Nigerian young people, as so numerous young people are out of job. Now, when you engage these young people into productive ventures, that is how you stem hunger and poverty. But more importantly, I would like to just comment slightly about this security thing. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has spoken extensively about how he's going to devolve power. So the issue is not whether it is state police. No, it is about the devolution of powers. And then let me correct this, my brother here. You have federal laws and federal crimes. I think it's just lack of ideas, and that is causing the APC to buy into what we call the devolution of powers with regards to how we police the Nigerian society. You have federal laws, you have state laws, you have local government laws. So you have crimes that are, like crimes like murder, crimes like arson. Those are federal laws, will be handled by federal police. It's a simple thing, it's not rocket science. Now back to the economy with regards to production and reducing hunger. Now, the Nigerian economy is in dire straits. I mean, there's no gain saying that. I mean, everybody understands that. Now, the kind of leadership that the PDP will bring is that the PDP will engage into these three things, which are the things that are of today's environment. That is ideas, technology, and innovation. Now, if you look at little things like ICT, ICT has popped up when we rebase our GDP. I give you this. Do you know that in 2020, ICT surpassed oil with regards to revenues? The figures are there. So I think we need to the candidates of the PDP will diversify the Nigerian economy so as to get it working again, because he has had the requisite experience. He's not a trial and error candidate. He's someone that has had the experience. So he will hit the ground running from day one, when Nigerians eventually give him the mandate.
All right, so we have just about 2
like
minutes.
We talk like this because we have had that experience in governance.
Right. I mean, you say we, and I'm looking at the part that you actually also worked for, the SDP, and now with the PDP, and I was going to put the same question to you. Is there a clash of ideologies for you as well, or you think that politics is fluid in Nigeria? No. You can always move from one to the other.
No, it wasn't a clash of ideologies. When we left the PDP for the SDP in 2016, I guess. Yes, in 2016, we left because of the Uche Secondo's leadership style, and apparently we are right. Look at how he was booted out of the party. It was a fundamental disagreement that we had with our bosses, Professor Jerry Ghana and the rest of them, who we left in 2016, disagreeing the processes that brought Uche Secondos to power. And apparently, fast forward down the years, you see that we were right.
But there's still a leadership tussle within your party, interestingly, Mr. Ijogi. But because of time, let's wind down. I'll give about 30 seconds each to all of you to respond to some other issues that have come up. And I'll go back to Indicato. And this one particularly is a statement that the governor of Kaduna State made. And it's a tweet, actually. He was responding to a video that was put out about your candidate. And this is what he said. He was talking to the obedient movement, saying that let the delusion of the obedience remain intact until the electorate speak louder and clearer than Twitter trolls in February 2023. Now, that's a tweet put out by a governor in the APC. And I wonder what your response to that will be.
Well, I mean, that in itself is Twitter trolling, which I should want to believe that is above the position of a governor to behave like that. But that is not new to the governor of Kaduna State. Young people have shown time and again in this election how much energy they are willing to put into this election. They have shown time and again to the political structure, to the powers that be, that, look, this election, over 75% of the voters are women and youth. And this election is going to be greatly decided by women and young people. So to constantly look at young people and denigrate them and make it look like the efforts they are putting into and taunting them, any responsible political leader would want more young people participating in politics. Any responsible political leader would look at young people saying that they're going to take hold of their future by participating, by voting, by actively canvassing for their separate candidates and actually encouraging them. But doing this is actually targeted to target young people, to troll them, for lack of a better word, and to make them feel like everything they're doing is useless. But that is not. We're seeing that young people are organizing better rallies. All the rallies that Labour Party has managed to organize have been much better organized than what we're seeing the other parties organize.
Okay, let's take this to Mr. Imani Boro so we can be fair with time as well.
And these young people are going to vote for Peter Obi at the end of the day. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Imani Boro, let's pick it up from the young people point of conversation. Your candidate has work to do as well with the young people. So speak to young people on behalf of your candidate, perhaps. What would you be saying to them such that it can resonate with him and perhaps support him?
The young people of Nigeria actually support our presidential candidate. We have, you see, what we see today, we see a lot of movement around Labour Party. That is fine. But it's new. That's why it's in the news. But in APC, and even in PDP, we've always had young people, vibrant, imaginative, creative, brilliant, and we still have them. So we're all newsmen, we are news people, so it's new. So what's new, that's what people are trending with. Mm-hmm. But the fact remains that the youth echelon of APC is constant, is solid, and is totally in support of Bola Ahmed Tinubu to bring us to a new dispensation. Well, Mr. Adakole Ejogi, crystallize our hopes and dreams even further.
Let's get Mr. Ejogi's final words as we wind down in less than a minute. All right, thank you very much. So your final words, really. The candidate of the APC asked your candidate to step down and endorse him, saying that he had done that in the past. You have 30 seconds for this. Any response to that?
Wait.
No, to you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear. I didn't hear that.
Because of time, the candidate of the APC asked your candidate to endorse him, saying that he had done that for him in the past. I wonder what your response to that is.
Yes, I get you. I get your question.
You have less than 30 seconds now.
That's just political brickmanship. Of course, Atiku Abubakar will not step down for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The PDP is far ahead of the APC in polls, in experience. I mean, he's just trying to seek attention to himself. I don't think it's anything to respond to. I think just attention seeking.
Well, we have to wind down now. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank you so much for your time in the Kato, Mr. Imani Boro and Mr. Adakole Ejogi, representing the Labour Party, the APC and the PDP. Thank you so much for your time on the program tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that's been the program for tonight. The idea conversation continues in the coming days. So please stay with us right here on Channels Television. I'm Kaduna. Good night.